I think people feel that even if they're not ready for the big stage, we have satisfied that request by having things like if someone wants to go on a group podcast because they don't know if they can do a full podcast. Some people come on a group podcast because that's where they are financially, right? It's a $60 purchase, not a $400 purchase. So they might be completely stage ready and be able to have their own TV show.
Caring for others is part of your life, but it's not all of it. This is your space for growth, confidence, and connection to the whole you. Welcome to the DaliTalks podcast.
My guest today is Deborah Drummond, who has been an entrepreneur maven for 30 plus years. She's the founder of Mission Accepted Media and visionary behind the 262 movement. And throughout these projects, 1,000 plus women and men have spoken on her stages and authored in her publications. So she likes to talk about leadership, top performance, and media. She wants to talk to us today about her book, 262 Women Entrepreneurs, Ultrapreneurs, Creatives, and Media Rock Legacy and Tell All. So welcome, Deborah. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, you are an incredible human being. I've had multiple conversations with you, so I know a little bit about what you've done. It's so impressive. But let's give the audience a little background of where you originated from. How did this idea of going into media come about?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, like you said, I've been in business for a little while now. And when I think about what first inspired me to go into business, it's I think it's a really interesting story. So I was in the music industry and I had a considerable epiphany, came home one night and had a conversation in the mirror about it was to change. I needed to change. And I didn't really know where to go or what to do. And I started to do kind of maybe some self-exploration. Now, you got to keep in mind, this is more than a couple of decades ago. There wasn't women's organizations or places you could go to learn about if you wanted to change what you were doing, you went back to school. That's it. You went back to school, you got a new skill, and that was all. And so I decided that I wanted to go, and it completely changed everything. I wanted to get a degree in women's studies and religious studies and help women in third world countries create economic platform. That from loving the music industry, like the whole thing, I love music. And so as I was about to get a women's studies degree, I had this really super cool wanted surprise. And that wanted surprise is now my 32-year-old daughter. It changed the trajectory of me going to school for 4 years, clearly, right? Again, there was no hey, have your baby, and there's a daycare on the campus. That was not happening. I've been gluten-free for over 30 years. And so I was pregnant and I wanted a muffin, wanted a muffin. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. There was one store in Vancouver, Canada at that time that made muffins that were gluten-free. And I went there and I got one. And there was a pink flyer at the table of where I got it. And people post flyers and things about their business. And it was, people call me a professional hippie. Where I got my gluten-free muffin was 100% hippie. You know what I mean? So all sorts of flyers, people doing some cool holistic stuff. I just grabbed this pink flyer, it caught my eye. When I got in the car, I looked at it and it was a class on massage. That changed the trajectory of my life, where I actually went in, met her. I was pregnant with my daughter. The second day of the class, I grabbed a piece of paper. Literally my first business plan was an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. If I do this many massages and charge this amount, that this is how much money I can bring in to take care of the family. That was it. Right. So that was my first business plan. That's 7 international companies ago. Right. I built 7 international companies by then, but that really was the spark, was the need, the desire. And I just got tingled. And I figured I would be doing that company for the rest of my life. Now, I did holistic studies for a very long time, I would say we were very successful in terms of our goal. Our goal was to heal as many people as we could. And we were active for 27 years and that we did. And then really I woke up one day, and it's going to sound strange to some people, not to others, but I can't make the story any different. At the time, I only knew about 4 people that had a podcast and had no idea. And then a publicist called me and had a download and said, I need to do an anthology. I go, what's an anthology? And no one had done them. This was the first, it was that concept And I said, I'm on board. And I created an anthology for women in business in a certain business sector that I was in. Because predominantly what happened is people come to me for business experience. And I was coaching and training before the wave of coaching came. And so because I had a natural aptitude for being able to do business, and I was in the holistic sector, and by nature, those two things do not go too well. We're empaths, right? We're healing the world. We like to give things for free. We don't understand strategy or reverse engineering or real costs and, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how that all started. And it's all a bit and piece of what I do today, but I've always served for all these years. The podcast for me, as soon as I got told, I don't always say yes to everything I'm told to do. I mean, that's a for sure. I thought, okay, I am an entrepreneur. I've been serving entrepreneurs for all these years. And so if I'm going to create a podcast, and I didn't even say media company at that time. If I'm going to create podcasts and do anthologies, then I'm going to serve my people. And so that's where my whole company came around, serving with media. That started it. And then here we are now.
Wow. Okay. So you were this hippie going in to get your muffin when you see this flyer, but you said that you were already in the music industry at that point, right?
Yeah. So I was leaving music. I had left music, and I was going to go get a degree in women's studies. And then I found out I was pregnant, and
Right.
I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I had no idea. And people, like, I had left a very good paying, at one point because we also in that sector, part of it was working with the whole wait staff and serving and the bars and the clubs and booking bands and that kind of thing. And we made so much revenue that my boss came up to me and said, you haven't cashed a paycheck in 6 months. Can you please go cash your paychecks? That's
Wow.
how well we were doing. And when I made this big announcement, I'll tell you, I came home from the club one night, and as I was taking my makeup off, the mirror went black, pitch black. And I heard the words, you're done. And then the
Oh, wow.
mirror came open. I don't know how long it was. I had no spiritual practice. I didn't believe in God then. I had no. So, and I actually kind of cool on that. And so I don't know why it shook me to my core. And the next day I called in and I said, I'm not coming back. And they're like, what are you going to do for money? I'm like, that's an interesting question.
Wow. So were you promoting? Because I'm kind of want to, I guess, tie in like the experience that you had in the music industry. What skills from that could have helped you to go on to your next chapter?
I don't think it was about that. I think that I'm a people person. I still do stuff in the music. Like, I do music for Amnesty International. Like, I mean, these are all posters. Like, that's a Janis Joplin poster. That's a Fleetwood Mac album. Like, I still do things for music. I believe music for me is a master healer. So that's more of an emotional thing. Like, I can still tell you the day I put my first Janis Joplin album on my record player. I know I raised my kids on vinyl. So it's more of I don't tie them together. I just think that in the music world, you're up late, there's things that happen. It's a lifestyle. And you got to go back a time. It wasn't such a healthy lifestyle, right?
Okay.
So I don't think it was that there was transferable skills other than I'm a people person.
Mhm.
And then I went into healing people with holistic health.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. We're talking
Yeah.
a long time ago.
No, I really liked for people to hear what you did then, because I think
Yeah.
some people don't really understand that you could pretty much, it doesn't matter what you did back then, you can completely turn around and do something so different and be successful at it. So at what point did you decide to create a media company?
When I woke up that morning and I had the podcast, the podcast epiphany, I did that. I started doing my own book, like no one even knew what an anthology was. Okay. So in my second course of career, I guess, when I created, we created the first holistic health center in Vancouver. I had 18 staff. We were healing, we were massaging, we were Ayurveding, we were chakra balancing. I had 2 radio shows that were based on, people calling in. I had a large intuitive practice. Like, every one of my 18 staffs were intuitives. Like, it was I created an aromatherapy home party company, a gemstone home party company. Like, I had a full life there. And then when I got this epiphany or whatever, wake up call to do the podcast, I mean, it's not like I left one company and did the other. I did this. And at that time, I had also been called and headhunted by a company in the US, Canada, to distribute skin and body and brain, like, products, globally. And so I had been traveling around the world. And in that company, I was number one in sales out of 10 countries and 200,000 distributors. So I was really living this life of, I still had a private practice of teaching people top performance, like people that have never done business before. And so I would build sales teams of people that had never done business before. And then they were having super successful businesses. Like this download to do media was like completely off the cuff, just like go into holistic healthcare. And I was doing music and staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning. Like this doesn't work, right? And so the whole idea around building a media company wasn't immediate. It was do a podcast and serve my people, entrepreneurs. And then I'm going to do these anthologies. And we did this really powerful anthology of 22 women in the same field, competing companies, complete competition. And all these women came into this book to talk about their story in this business sector without mentioning the company, to rise the sector, and also rise them. You had to be 6-figure income earner to be in the book, and all sorts of criteria. I think people have always come to me for advice on business. I think that's just a God-given gift. And I studied top performance for 30 years. So going into media, it was not, I'm going to have a media company. So I did the podcast, then I did the book, and then we did the planner, right? The planner that we gift now to the Emmys and Oscars Gifting Suite Media. And that planner is a top performance planner. And that came out of me hitting all these accolades. I was in Success Magazine 48 times. It wasn't kept a secret. So then people kept coming to me wanting my advice. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I made a planner and put everything in it that I did to be able to hit number one. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't talk to all day, right? I had 2 kids, I'm a single parent of 2 kids, 10 years apart. One wants to go to the farm, one wants to go shopping. I mean, this was, funky times, right? And so I put everything in this planner and said, buy this. This is the next best thing. If you can't, afford to be one of my clients because I can't help thousands of people for free, then buy the book. And that's what started. And then my brain goes, well, let's turn it into an anthology. And so I think my brain automatically thinks community. And so when there's a need, I serve it. So podcasts, what happened? Everyone's going on podcasts. No one's getting called from podcasts. Now I do classes that teach people how to yield from a podcast. People want to do TV. So the whole thing started. I started I'd done 11 anthologies before the big 262 one. And the 262 women one kicked off the need for summits. So I created summits. And then all of a sudden you've got 1,200 people that have been on stage, and then the need showed itself, or I had an epiphany. You need to have a solution. Right now, we own the women's channel, right? I own the women's channel. And so people can have their own TV show on the women's channel. And then there's people with podcasts that go, I don't know how to go from podcast to TV. And I'm like, it's super easy. It's really not much different. But then an issue for women is revenue or expenses. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to bring TV to the table, I'm going to create a way that a woman can make more money by owning the TV show than spending it. And so we go to task. And I'm like, okay, here's the formula. We ran that last year with some beta. We have now 5 shows in production. Now we just created the whole program. So, right? Like I can't say that I created it in one epiphany or I had the whole business plan. I'd say that I'm a strategic planner. So I just plan as things go. And so last September, we did our first quarter, which is about what we do in the following year. So I'm just obviously on a bit of a soapbox and answering that very, very long-winded, but it's not as, I wish it was as easy to like, hey, I have a media company and you knew everything. A lot of it is you can lay your plan, but then what is your consumer telling you? Like we just did beta on TV. You know what they told me? They told me they need more structure. They told me they need more time. They told me they need more this. So now that's what we got. I think that particularly in a subject like media, you have to be like, I believe we're probably with what we're doing right now, we're probably 5 to 8 years ahead of the curve. And in media, you need to be, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So you're talking about the podcasts, which is telling stories as well as the anthology. So what do you look for in a story that deserves a stage and what instantly turns you off as a media gatekeeper?
So you mean if someone wants to speak on stage?
Right, whether it's on stage or how you
Or on
select
the
your
on the
speaker
podcast?
for your podcast or
Yeah.
your storyteller in your anthology.
Yeah. So I think here's something interesting. When you've been in something for a while, as maybe as long as I have, and for you, I think there's an embodiment that happens. I think I embody empowerment. I'm like hashtag borrow bravery. And so I think people feel that even if they're not ready for the big stage, we have things like if someone wants to go on a group podcast because they don't know if they can do a full podcast. Some people come on a group podcast because that's where they are financially, right? It's a $60 purchase, not a $400 purchase. So they might be completely stage ready and be able to have their own TV show, but that's for them where they're at financially. When someone is at like, I'm not ready to be on a stage with 5 celebrities, we're like, no problem. I'm very happy to say that by nature, we have a place where people can start. So for us, it would be, I guess if it was just, we did these summits, this was the criteria. If you hit the criteria, and if not, maybe go get it. We're the go get it. So we're like, okay, we're going to start you here. You can do a speaker shout out. It's 2, 3, or 4 minutes. Can you answer a question? If I ask you a question online, because this is where our stages sit for the international ones anyways. And so they are able to grow in our community with their skills, and we offer a full media training. And I think that's what I was saying earlier, like what is your people telling you they need? I can tell in 30 seconds where someone's at. But by nature, I think because I embody my media and what we do, and we're International Women's Day and solidarity, I mean, that's a different mission, right? That we have things that satisfy that need. I mean, I've watched, this great woman, I think Kathy Holt. So Kathy Holt, 40 years, United Nations, leadership, rocking, political, she does the whole thing. She came to us and said, I need to build something for me. She could speak in a group there, but she could not speak here. So she came onto our stages, multiple stages, practice. We did our media sheet. She's great. And I'm like, okay, come down to I think it was the Emmys with us. Come down to the Emmys with us and be one of the people giving the books and getting the pictures of being around the celebrities and do the celebrity thing. And she's like, okay. So she came to that. And then I corner her, with the organizer. And I'm like, Kathy, write your own book. You are going to come back to the Oscars. Your table will be beside us. And I'm going to help you stand on your own. And you, with your leadership book, she wrote her book in 3 months. So we supported her to write her book. She launched her book. She came back to Oscars. She held her own. She had her table. She da. And then it came time where we were releasing the TV. Now she has her own TV show. Now she didn't come in TV show criteria. She didn't come in with a book, and she didn't come in with top full game. We curated that process. And now she's just rocking and killing it, right? I see her all over. I go, look at you, right? She's a hot ticket. And so that's what we built from an infrastructure standpoint. So I don't necessarily turn people away. I just put them in the right direction. Like, let's go here. But I've had people on our last stage, Dali, that our last stage, there's a woman, not a speaker. She's a CPA. She had 2 life after death experiences, like big deal, like having conversations and saying, you're not leaving yet. We're not bringing you yet. You have to stay there, like the whole thing. And she told me this at a big event. I was the live auctioneer. And she told me this story and I'm like, you need to be on stage with that. She goes, I know. She came on stage. She wanted to throw up at her house before she came on. She did her 20 minutes. Because we rehearsed and it was like,
yeah, wow, that's incredible how you help women get to that next level, because you said they can start from the very bottom when they can do the group podcast and they just keep going up a level until they're on their own stage. So what do you think is the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make when trying to get visibility? What should they focus on instead if they want longevity?
I think that's a bit of a generational question. So women that I'd say are like the 50 plus have a different thought around media that women that are in their 20, 25, 30, just due to the nature that one grew up with it more than the other. Also, there's a methodology, and I know it's the generation of which I was. So there's this thing about you have to earn your wings. So you have to do A to B, like you have to do this, you have to speak here and then speak here and then speak here. And that there's this long-term process that you go to till you're quote unquote ready. I would say toss that out the window. I'm not saying don't get skills. I'm not saying don't hire coaches. I'm a coach, you're a coach. I'm not saying don't hang out with people that are going to be able to take you there. It's not a solo journey, people. I'm not saying it's a solo journey. I'm saying if you want something, if you're like, I know I'm meant to be on TV, what are you going to do? 5-year plan on the way to get there? Because I'll tell you, by the time 5 years comes around, TV's going to change. So it's like, go find out what you need to do. Go find out if someone's willing to get you there. And it's probably not as much time and not as much money. You know what? I don't know if your community it leans in the sector of women, but that's a big thing. The two things that come up, I always say that a woman's brain is like a cash register. And as soon as they see something that they really want, there's an automatic assumption, I don't have the money for that. I hear it all the time. And I don't say that against my sisters. I say that with my sisters, is that we have this thing because by nature, we're paying for so many things or we're caring for so many things. We have that. We don't really compartmentalize. And it's hard in the moment until you talk to someone to see what that investment will yield. And the time that it'll take you to be able to yield will be a lot shorter if you actually just invest in the way to get there. Do you know what I mean? Like you're like, I'm going to earn getting there. Or you're going to invest in how to get there, because time is a massive commodity. Time is a massive commodity. And I'll tell you, because I spend a lot of time now curating, talking to women about TV. I would say I've had more inquiry about TV in the last 60 days than we've had since we launched last March, because women are like, oh, yeah, I can. They're like, yeah, you can. And this is what it's going to do for you. And so, but there's a switch of time. So I'm like, when you have a TV, I just use TV because everyone knows what TV is, right? So if you do a TV or you come into, I'll talk about a book in a minute. When you go into TV, I tell people, you're going to probably cut your posting time, honestly, maybe down 60%. They're like, not possible. We need to do 3 times a day. I go, I'm not talking algorithms, but you're going to talk about TV. First of all, TV is going to give you a whole lot of stuff to post about. Second, you walk into a room and you say, here it is, walk into a room and go, oh, my TV show is going to be launching next spring. You will have a different conversation with people than if it's my podcast or my book or my program or my anything. It's just the impact of the media piece, right? Now I'm part of a book that's a conversation. Like these things are conversations. They create media attention. Those things, when I have someone that comes to me and I look at their media plan, 85% is about social media. It actually should be opposite. What you're doing in media will give, if you take what you're doing in media and you put it on your social, even 15%, you'll have like the exact same yield.
So there are listeners probably right now saying, I have a story, but I'm not ready. And then you have 262, which is an anthology. And I'm sure you're going to do another one next year, and then the year after that, and the year after that. And they might want to work with you. So what should they know if they feel like they have that story, but they're not ready? What's the first step to getting to that point of publishing with you?
So I would say that if someone's sitting with a story and that story has made itself known to you, if you could sit on a show and go, I have a story, and if I was to say about what, and you can tell me, you're ready. Mm-hmm. Like if the story came to you, like you might have experienced the story, but if it's in your head, if it's in your heart, if it's in your thoughts, chances are it's ready to go. So you can audio it, right, to yourself just to get it out of your system. You can journal it to get it out of your system. But if you know that story is meant to have impact, if it needs to be heard, if it needs to be read, if it needs to be seen, if it needs to be talked about, then that's when you call someone like myself who is an expert in that area. And no expert is going to, because it would be, it just wouldn't be ethical to push someone to be ready. But it is ethical to educate someone to be ready. And so we're talking, 262 women, it's quite considerable. This is a 5-year book tour. So we just finished the last revision and we were actually talking today. So this book will complete its 5-year book tour in 2027 with a very big grand party and Times Square in New York in 2028. And the decision is now, do we do 262.20? Do we do another 262 book? Because we don't do this every year. That I feel that the women in here need time to breathe. The people need time to read it. So it's not a yearly, it would be every 5 years. The other thing is that what I find underneath, that when I scratch the surface, if I'm not ready, is my story's not good enough. Not good enough in a way like It's not impactful enough. I always tell people, bring it down to the Hallmark card. If you don't know what a Hallmark card, it's a gift card, right? And so the Hallmark card is usually a paragraph that makes people change something emotionally when they read the card. That's what our stories are meant to do, either educate or impact. And so that's why we do quotes. Like when I say to someone, I'm not ready to do my story, perfect. Do you have a quote? Your quote. Like, what do you live by? You know what I mean? And so we quote author. Let's put a quote into the planner and people can see your quote and you can see your quote and it's and quote out. We quote people all the time. We quote Shakespeare, we quote this, we quote that. It's poetic. So there's always a place to start at. And do not dismiss the power of your story. That is how we teach. That's how we teach when I taught aromatherapy, I'm telling you what lavender is and God passe, and he put his hand in a vat after a burn. And like, this is what it is.
Okay, so when are you going to start the next anthology so that people can call you ahead of time and say, hey, I want to be in it?
They can call me now. There'll be at least a 1.5-year wait list for the next 262. We haven't even 100 decision. Maybe this is the decision. Maybe we're making it right here with you, Dali, to do another 262.20. But they can get into the top performance and do a quote author right now. Let's get your quote. Let's introduce you to our print world. I mean, we have a print world. If you have a story to tell, come onto our podcast, right? If you have a story to tell, come onto our stage. Whether it's the 3 or 4 minute spot, whether it's coming onto an expert panel, we're an accessible media house, which means we're accessible by geography, we're accessible by finance. So you come onto an expert panel. So the panel is different talks. We've got one called Trailblazing Women. We've got one about technology. We've got one about what you do helps people make more money. So grab a panel. That panel is then seen by our stage world, our summit world, and then we take it and we turn it into an episode. Now it's on the women's channel, and now you're streaming to 900 million. Like these opportunities exist all day, every day. Now, I can't say that we're not in the pioneering. I'm just saying that we are at the brink of pioneering. I would say my next book is #God pick on somebody else. But we are pioneering TV in a way that it's positive infotainment, in a way that women have not had access before. And I'll tell you who we need to thank. We need to thank the Dr. Phils, the Oprahs, the Ellens, the, Tara Banks, the Drew Barrymore that took story of people's experiences in the world to a stage that had a lot of eyes, that made stories and people sharing other people's worlds. Now you've got things like when reality TV came in, like Survivor or the Food Channel. Let's talk about the Food Channel. Oh my gosh, you've gone from Julia Childs to, Emerald, to this world of food. Any kind of food, any kind of topic. You want desserts, you want Italian this, you want this. You can go and find that Food Channel show that will show you that food. We are the same thing with the Women's Channel. Now it is, they say the world's our oyster if we want to relate it to food. But now whatever whatever it is that you want to talk about, there's other people that want to come on your show and talk about it too. And so now there's this opportunity. So the trailblazing for TV, for individual people, right, that were not raised in TV land, can actually access and making impact to hundreds of millions of people. But we didn't attach ourselves to part of it, right? Oh, I could be a great writer. Yes. I could be a doctor. I could be a dentist. I could be a seamstress. I could be a teacher. I could be a philosopher. I could be, yes. But TV host? No. Radio personality? Maybe, but that's what that trailblazing was. Man, I'm soapboxing this morning. No idea why, but
no, that's okay. You've given so much information. And where can people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, easy. If you go to debdrummond.com, the reason why I tell people to go to my website, because if you go to my website, on many of the pages of the site, there's a contact us button that literally will go to my email before my team. Also on the bottom of my website is all my social handles. So I can send you to Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever you play, but you can find all of the options on the bottom of each page, or you can just bypass that and do it directly. You can subscribe to our newsletter and you can watch and see what we do, because we're fairly active in giving information from email, because people, love to read or watch our stuff. So they can do all that.
Wonderful.
DebDrummond.com. Not tough. It's the same name.
Yeah, you have incredible amount of resources and offers, which is really impressive. And thank you so much for sharing about that. And hopefully we'll be working together soon.
Yeah, I think more than anything, if I could just say, I know I've talked a lot about TV and media, and someone may be like, I'm not sure. I don't want, if I could leave your listeners with one thing, is that I don't want you to feel that media is so far out of your reach, or that you have to understand technology to be in media. That's the difference between social media and media. Social media, you got a lot of people really struggle having to learn and post. When you do bigger media, it's one big magazine, it's one big book, it's one big show, it's one big thing. And you don't have to do anything from a technology standpoint. You just get to be you. So the access and the ease of which it happens, like all of the other stuff, that's on us. When you go in, so the book, I mean, we've got 5 million media impressions on there. You don't have to do anything. I mean, yeah, definitely post it up on your social media. But when you go into that bigger place, the responsibility comes off your shoulders. That's the beautiful thing. So I just want people to know it's a lot easier than you think.
Thank you so much, Debs.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, did you like that episode? I have an ask. Would you mind leaving me a review? It would really help me improve this podcast so that you can come back and keep listening. Also, don't forget to check me out at DaliTalks.com and follow me on social media at DaliTalks. Until next time.